Snipes-n-Snarfblatts, your unauthorized place for Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm. I'm your host, Jason. Today we've got a lot of stuff on the plate. Actually, it's a little stuff with a lot of details. So, first of all, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to explain what we're really going to do from now on and how this show is going to come down every week. Every week it's going to be much like the website. We're going to split it into 4 pieces. 4 different sections of different things happening under the Disney umbrella that I'm going to talk about one way, here, or another. And it's really the stuff that touches me one way or touches me the other way that I really think I need to speak on. So while it's not going to be everything, there is going to be a good amount of stuff. And I'm going to talk about it, let y'all know what I think about it. And then I'm feeling free for y'all to be in the comments, and I want everyone to tell me what they think. I want to know y'all's opinion too. In fact, later on I'm going to put down a email address in which you can send us some questions yourself or topics or anything, something I missed for the week that you really wanted to talk about. Anything to that extent, send it to me and I will make sure in the next show I'll try to set aside some time so I can get to those topics and questions as they come in. And like I said, don't forget, that'll be at the end, so be on the lookout for that. That'll be the email address you can get us at, as well as the links I'll talk about later in the end too. But without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it, and this is the first section. This is called The Mouse in the Desk Lamp. And the mouse in the desk lamp is where we're going to talk about what happens in the Disney and Pixar on the silver screen. This is all going to be really silver screen news for the first 3. And the first, we're going to touch Disney and Pixar. They're all kind of lumped under one sum for me with them. So this time it was an Entertainment Weekly exclusive, and it was almost right as I finished that top 10 last week. If you didn't get a chance to see that, it's still up. But it was some Dumbo posters exclusively from Entertainment Weekly. And we're going to put them up one by one and talk over them and go over the synopsises that Entertainment Weekly give. And I'll try to throw my 2 cents in here and there as we go. But the first one I really want to take on is Michael Keaton. And Michael Keaton in this film is going to play V.A. Vanderveer. And he's the villain, which, oh man, I'm loving this Michael Keaton as a villain thing. I've loved Michael Keaton for a long time. I loved the happy-go-lucky, funny Michael Keaton. And I've loved his work with Tim Burton on Batman and Batman Returns. I mean, what they pulled off in an unmovable rubber suit was just amazing. And it was mainly because of this man. Michael Keaton is a great actor. And ever since Wuthering Heights, I've loved him as a villain. And he got to show that again in Spider-Man Homecoming. And he got to show how really good he is in this role as the villain. And for Dumbo, that's what he's going to be. It's V.A. Vanderveer. He's going to be the villain. And he owns kind of a state-of-the-art mega amusement park known as Dreamland. You want to compare it, think of it as like Walmart to your corner store or Disney World to your local carnival. I mean, this is the level of his thing that he's on. And according to Keaton, his character kind of, he manipulates everyone around him, and he's really just money-centric type of person with no care for anything else on how he's going to profit off of his show and off of his Dreamland. And that's where he comes into contact with Danny DeVito. That's the next poster they put up. And I really do love these posters, by the way. Every one of them. I like the way the color pops. I like that hint of Tim Burton-ness they've got without Tim Burton really just totally going all out and taking over like he tends to do sometimes. This is more, to me, this is more out of his Batman type stuff, in which you can see Tim Burton's hands in it, but it's not a Tim Burton just fully controlled thing. And that's what I like about these. And seeing Danny DeVito and Keaton, I think the best thing to me is this is kind of like a Batman Returns reunion, except the roles are reversed. Batman's the villain and the Penguin's kind of the good guy that you really want to root for. And he's Max Medici. Danny DeVito, he's the owner of a struggling Medici Brothers circus. I mean, this circus is really, really going downhill fast. And in a last-ditch attempt to save it, he winds up buying this pregnant elephant because he thinks that a baby elephant's going to just bring more crowds into his amusement park or into his circus, you know what I mean? And that said, obviously the next poster is Dumbo, who, ever since I've seen life be breathed into this character, it's gotten a lot less scary for me. Because on print, when I first saw him, I was like, that little thing looks soulless and just terrifying. But now that I know how he moves and there's some movement in there, I've really got fond of this. And Dumbo's stories, where they're kind of switching up a little bit, you can see, because Dumbo, when he's born, obviously they see the big ears, and for some reason it's a letdown. I think a big-eared elephant at the circus would be a total draw and just absolutely adorable, but for the sake of argument, let's say that everyone thinks it's weird and everyone makes fun of him, and no one wants to see a big-eared elephant, right? So then he flies. I mean, all of y'all seen Dumbo, you know he flies, but in this, it seems like he's going to fly a little earlier than he did in the original. And once they realize he could fly, that's when you bring in Vandermeer. And when you bring in Vandermeer, he sees that he can fly, and he wants a piece of this, and he wants it in Dreamland. And that's where he comes into contact with the girl poster, which I don't even know what much to say about the girl poster because they didn't give much of a description of her. She's a French aerialist, Colette, and she's at Dreamland. She's going to work on an all-new show with Dumbo at Dreamland, and that's what brings her into the orbit of the kids and the main character, who's played by Colin Farrell. And literally, that's all they give us about her. So, I mean, talk about the total opposite of spoiler heavy. We don't know much about her, so I can only think, since they mentioned that it'll bring her in the orbit of this family, that she's going to be the love interest to the next poster, which is Colin Farrell, which I mentioned just a second ago. He's a former horseman who he rode horses in the circus, and he returns from World War I. Obviously, you can see he's got one arm. One of them he lost during World War I, but that's not all he lost. He also comes back a widower, as he lost his wife. And that puts him in the position of not only taking care of the kids, but he also becomes Dumbo's caretaker at this Medici circus, which he comes to, and they use the word shambles in the article for EW. So, I mean, this circus, I can't stress how probably horrible condition this circus is probably in. So, it needs money bad. It puts yourself in a real point to really care for these folks and realize that anything they do, they're only doing for the sake of everyone they're taking care of in the circus. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, and that's how Dumbo gets taken away from his mom, is this circus is in shambles and they have to sell him. So it's a little twist on the Dumbo story that you're used to. I don't think there's going to be a raging elephant, but you know what? Who knows? As I said, they're real vague on the details. Literally what I just gave you is all the details we got. So, I mean, for all we know, if he manipulates situations, Vandermeer turns the mom against him into a raging elephant. I have no idea. But to tell you the truth, these posters and this synopsis has got me more excited for a movie that was already in my top 10 things this year anyway. I really, really am excited for what they're going to do with this Dumbo. Like I said, I don't mind these live actions as long as they're building onto something. As long as they're building onto something and they're not completely changing something. And I mean completely. Like, I like to add on, you can twist a little things here or there if you have to, but just don't change the essence of the story, and it really feels like they're staying true to the core of what we know about Dumbo, and also giving us a whole new movie at the same time, so we really have something to latch on to and enjoy, and not just be sitting through a live-action version of the cartoon that we're used to anyway. I'm really excited about that. And like I said, this was in my top 10. And now we're going to move on to the next segment, which is going to start off with another piece of my top 10. And this segment is one we call The Nine Realms. And it's everything that happens in the Marvel Universe that they release for us to know. You know what I'm saying? And two things really came out. The first thing I'm going to put up here is we got the Endgame logo. This is the official Avengers Endgame logo. And if you take a look at it, I looked at it for a while, and the more I looked at it, the more I started realizing, whoa, this is the exact color scheme of Hawkeye. Leading me to think that Hawkeye is going to play a major, major role in Endgame. And we've already seen him as Ronin in the previews. And speaking of the previews, I think it was Collider. A bunch of people have reported this now, so I'm not sure where I first got this from. I want to say Collider just for the sake of saying someone and quoting some source. But they have went on record to say the previews of Avengers Endgame are all going to stay within the first 20 minutes of the movie. So everything you saw was within the first 20 minutes of the film, and it sounds like they're going to keep it that way until the film's released. And I really like this because you can tell there's a lot going on in this movie. And like I said, you've already seen Ronan. You've already seen so much. You've seen so many people that pop up. You've seen Scott Lang, all kinds of stuff, and we're all deciphering on when this is and what this is. And guess what? According to them, and I take it with a grain of salt because they've lied to us before, but according to them, the Russo brothers have said this is only the first 20 minutes that they're going to cut into previews for this film. And I honestly wish more films would do this because I know everyone loves to speculate and people judge by their speculations. And I don't like it when I've seen so much of the movie that I can almost speculate the beginning, in, middle, and end, or at least place where the scenes are going to take place in the film. It really gets to me, and I'm so glad they just went ahead and said, hey y'all, speculation aside, 20 minutes is all you're getting in these previews. And like I said, back to the logo even, Hawkeye, I'm really thinking it's got something to do with Hawkeye / Ronan, but at the same time, hell, I could just be reaching for straws, and it could just be purple because Thanos just got rid of half the world. So I could be wrong. It could be a thing for Thanos, but the first thing that popped in my head is I think if I had to bet on it, I'm not betting on much usually, but if I had to really bet on it, I think Hawkeye and Ronan are really going to have a big thing to do with this film, as well as the subject of the next piece of our Nine Realms news, and that is Captain Marvel. All right. If y'all saw the Captain Marvel special look, and y'all saw the Captain Marvel featurette yesterday, I put them up on the site. If you haven't seen them, go down, go to Snipes-n-Snarfblatts, go to the Nine Realms, look at the first two articles. The first two articles up there, as of right now when this video is coming out, are going to be that featurette and that trailer. And man, oh man, they were great. I have not said this about a look at Captain Marvel yet. There was also a bunch of synopsises that dropped on, Collider got a first look. They were on set. And AMC got a first set exclusive. So a lot of this, I speculated a lot when I saw the previews, and a lot of what they said on their set reviews kind of confirmed what I've speculated. So we're going to get into that too. But first, these previews. This is the best look at Captain Marvel we've had so far. And I've been on and off for the previews. I know at one point I said Brie Larson even looked bored as she was playing Carol Danvers unless she was all suited up. And I also said Samuel L. Jackson steals the show. And you know what? Samuel L. Jackson still has definitely just a dominant piece in these previews. But Brie kind of steps up in this preview and kind of they've got it feels like a buddy cop thing going on. And I really like it. Like this movie's going to, Brie Larson playing Captain Marvel, they've said already that it's going to take place. She's already Captain Marvel. You're not going to get an origin story in the way you're used to getting an origin story. It's going to kind of be peppered in between because it seems like she's got a form of like kind of amnesia, I guess. She don't remember who she is or who she was. And not knowing who she was, it's kind of going to come back to her little by little, I think, as she's training for this special Star Force that she's on with the Kree. And that's one of the things they did confirm is that the Kree-Skrull War is going to play a big part in this. And if you don't know what the Kree-Skrull War is, you are not reading comic books in the 70s and 80s. Because the Kree-Skrull War heavily shaped the cosmic universe that is Marvel Universe. And the Kree, they listen to the Supreme Intelligence. It's this organic computer that knows all, sees all, tells them everything they need to do and everything they need. That's like their king, basically. And it's this organic computer of sorts, for lack of things to describe it to, just to make it easy. And the Skrulls, they are a group of shapeshifters, which you can already see this would cause problems, because shapeshifters, they can do whatever they want. And I mean, they're also highly powerful. Like, these are powerful beings. These are like, they're Captain America level power. They can go hand to hand with Cap. And the Kree-Skrull War eventually rolls off into Earth and starts what we know as the secret invasion that occurred in Marvel. And I'm going to touch on that later after I really get into what Captain Marvel is going to go through, because I have a feeling that has more to do with the future than it does to do with this movie in particular. And I think this movie in particular is going to set up Ronan, how you saw him in Guardians. I know it's going to set up, I think, Korvar, and Demiju Hinsu. I know I just destroyed that man's name, and I am so sorry. But the other guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, the first guy who comes across Star-Lord. And Star-Lord, man, that guy. So it's really going to set up him in a sense that you're going to probably see how he winds up with Ronan. You've got Jude Law playing this unknown character who we've gone back and forth on whether he's Captain Marvel, which was the first Captain Marvel, or a character called Yanrog, which is a villain. And the reason I kind of paused there is because I've got my own thoughts. I honestly think they've kind of just meshed together those two characters I've just named. And he's going to be the leader of Star Force like Marvel was, but he's going to be more like Yanrog, like a villain come out in the first place and really, really stand against Captain Marvel coming in. That's just my 2 cents. I could be totally wrong on this, but I really do think he's going to be kind of an amalgam of both characters. And they've really went out of their way to not let us know either way, but we do know that he is definitely going to be a Training Day type cop, probably. If you've seen the movie Training Day with Denzel Washington, that's the vibes I'm kind of getting from this. I'm kind of getting him and his team incorporate this Captain Marvel. And the more Captain Marvel realizes who she is and what's going on, the more they're going to start to separate and things are going to go different. Now, I said I'd talk about the Secret Invasion, and that's where I think all of this is leading. As where the 10 years we saw in the past were leading up to Infinity War and Endgame, I really do think this next 5 to 10 years are going to involve Secret Invasion. And if it doesn't go 5 or 10 years, it's at least going to go a little while in the next films, you know. Because throughout the Secret Invasion, we find out that, see, Captain Marvel's set in the past. And it being set in the past lets them almost rewrite anything. And that easily lets them put in the original Secret Invasion story where some of these shape-shifting Skrulls have not only infiltrated Earth, they've infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D., they've infiltrated our superheroes as we know them even. So some people just might not be who they seem coming up in the long run, which it's very interesting storytelling that I can't wait for them to dive into. But like I said, I think that's going to affect more after this film than actually during the Captain Marvel film. But the featurette also got into her workout regime. Y'all, watching this woman work out made me tired. She said she was already at it 9 months. Yeah, the time it takes to have a baby from start to finish. She was already at it 9 months before shooting even started. And then she kept up this workout regimen. I mean, they just kept showing thing after thing she was doing. And like I said, I got tired just watching. There was some behind the scenes in there, so really check those out if you didn't get a chance, because they've really turned me around on this Captain Marvel movie where I was excited, but my excitement level wasn't even close to Avengers Endgame level, and now it's at least up there because I really think with this and Avengers Endgame, we're going to get a full picture on what we're going to be looking for the future of Marvel now that we know Endgame is kind of ending off the chapter they've been telling us for 10 years. But that's all the big points I've seen from everything behind stage and all of that. That's all the major things I really got out that really got me excited one way or the other. I can't wait for this movie. I've already got my tickets. And that being said, if you live in a big place, get your tickets now because I had a really difficult time getting mine. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to show up to Captain Marvel. It's actually been a while since we've had a Marvel movie, and it's just about time. So here we go. We're going to get 2 almost back-to-back, and they're not just 2. We got one setting the stage, and it's like one setting up the pins, and one's knocking them down. So I can't wait to see these movies as close as we're going to get to see them together. But that's really all for the 9 Realms. That's everything that happened in Marvel majorly that rubbed me wrong one way or the other. So getting into the next thing, we've got what we call Eyes on Isley. And that is our Star Wars news, as you see. Not much happened in the world of Star Wars this week. But there was one notable thing that I really had to get out. Last week on January 4th, it was National Trivia Day. And I'm going to put this up here and read this verbatim because someone asked Mark Hamill if he had some trivia that we didn't know about. And Hamill responded on Twitter, who, by the way, if you don't follow Mark Hamill on Twitter, do so. He is probably the most entertaining person on Twitter I have ever followed. But this is what he said, and this is great because it was hashtag true story. It was because of a record heat wave in England when filming Star Wars A New Hope. He said the original Star Wars, but I'll just reiterate A New Hope right there. Most pilots wore only the top half of their costume while attacking the Death Star in shorts. Alright, now, I don't know if y'all found that as hilarious as I do, but I can see it in my head, and honestly, what's funny is this raised way more questions for me than it should have. Because now I'm thinking, what kind of shorts? I'm like, were they swim trunks? Were they shorts that actually matched the uniform? Or were they just the various shorts you had in your luggage? So some guy shows up in his floral Hawaiian shirt. Some guy shows up in his regular shorts. Some guy shows up in, there's always one that wears those little bitty short shorts they should never be wearing as a man. But I guarantee you, if they were able to wear whatever they wanted, there was some that showed up in them. And now I think of those heavy uniforms with some little short shorts under them, and oh man, Mark Hamill, if you're listening to this or anybody feels like tweeting him about this, I need to know. There has to be pictures of this somewhere. I have got to get these pictures out of my mind. I need to know what kind of shorts they were wearing. I do not know why this is so important to me, but it is. And like I said, nothing else happened in the realm of Star Wars. In fact, I don't even know if that could be considered Star Wars news, but I just thought it was so funny that I at least had to address it before we move on to the final section. And the final section is what we call the e-ticket. And the e-ticket talks about all kinds of Disney park news, whatever park news I can get my hands on. And I mean, there's been a little stuff as of late. Disneyland had a major price hike for what I'm about to talk about next, because obviously that price hike put them up into Disney World prices. And why? Because Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is coming. My number one thing on my top 10 list from last week, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, hands down, is the one thing I'm excited for the most. And this week, we not only got a Barron's Financial newspaper report, we also got a total rundown of pics from a cast members of backstage stuff as it arrived. And so this total rundown from that and these backstage cast member pics all put together just made for so much Star Wars Galaxy's Edge news, it wasn't even funny. So I'm going to start off where we're going to start off. We'll start off with Smuggler's Run, because I mean, this guy went through everything. And first of all, he went through the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run ride and the whole queue. And the queue is basically you going through the Millennium Falcon as you know it, and you're going to see some famous pieces of the Falcon, all the panels and pipes, and most importantly, you're going to see the 3D hologram chessboard sitting there. But as you walk through this queue, you wind your way to the cockpit. It's a 6-person cockpit that's going to put you in control of the 200 switches and whatnot to control the Falcon on this ride, right? And the beauty of this is the switches operate in real time. All 6 of you will have a job that you will have to operate in real time. Now, I think this is amazing, because that means that your actions are actually going to affect the ride and the outcome of the ride. They even went as far as saying when you go to the cantina and when you go to stores, you're going to be hearing aliens / cast members / people that work at the stores. They're all going to be talking about how good or how bad you did on your Smuggler's Run personally. And I'm sure this will be all tracked by the app and tracked by your magic bands and whatnot. But this is just the mind-blowingness of the immersion that they're putting in this place. It surprises me every single time. But yes, you are going to be controlling the Millennium Falcon. You have actual control of this ride, and the outcome matters, which I don't know which one excites me more, to tell you the truth, but this is majorly exciting to me. I cannot wait to see how this all pans out. And now I'm actually excited about the attractions, including the next attraction on the list, which is the Rise of the Resistance. The Rise of the Resistance, and I think I'm actually more enamored by the queue than I am by this ride. because as you go through the queue, you're going to be going through a resistance base. And I'm going to guess the resistance base is just starting to be under attack or something, because somewhere through the queue as it ends is where you get taken hostage by the First Order. You get taken hostage by the First Order, you get taken to their starship, probably some form of Star Destroyer, right? And while you're taken hostage, straight out of this resistance base that the queue runs through, which is so cool to me because I can't wait to see this. I almost don't want to fast pass. These are the first rides I want to stand in line for just so I can see the queue itself. And after you get taken hostage, you get put on a prisoner transport vessel, and that's that trackless transport vessel that they're going to show pictures of. And wow, like, as you're on this vessel, you come into contact with AT-AT Walker, you come into contact with Kylo Ren, obviously you come into contact with numerous stormtroopers, but through all this, the Resistance is attacking to rescue you. And you're in this thing that eventually also becomes your rescue transport, actually. And that, it just, the storytelling involved in all of this, I think, is what really just has me totally piqued and just blows my mind, because the storytelling aspect here is amazing, even more so than the attraction itself. And I can't wait to see how this unfolds, because honestly, out of all of them, this is the ride to me that seems like its ambitions are really, really high. And with high ambitions, sometimes it pans out and sometimes it don't. But the more I see of this and the excitement level around it is, I really think this is going to pan out and it's going to be something amazing. And other than that, we also got a rundown of Olga's Cantina and one other thing. But first we'll touch on Olga's Cantina. Here's a concept art of all this. Came from the same exact article that I read. And the Olga's Cantina, they described the cantina as being just like what you saw in New Hope at Mos Eisley. And you're going to have all the vials and pipes and stuff behind the bar, and all the just coils. You'll be able to get blue milk. It will be a non-dairy blue milk. All kinds of alcoholic libations. A first for Disneyland, which is going to make a lot of people really, really happy in more ways than one. But now they did mention, though, and this is the part that kind of gets me, is limited seating. There's going to be limited seating in the cantina because they're encouraging people to just kind of pass through. And I hope they're still going to have a band and everything. No mention of that. But if they're going for Mos Eisley, you got to have some sort of band playing or something. I'm sure it will be some sort of music really resonating through the place. And I'm sure it'll be filled with aliens and everything you want to see. But the limited seating, the reason it gets to me is because that means that Hollywood Studios here, they're going to have to make sure they've got one extra seat, because I'm planning on taking that seat for a long time, and it's going to be my seat for weeks and months and probably years, and I will be a constant mainstay of this place with my sabacc cards, as I said, in my top 10. So while they're making it a walkthrough and a limited seating, I apologize to everyone, because one of those limited seats, feel free to sit with me and play some sabacc, but I will be there. That's my side. You know, mine. But anyway, yeah, that will definitely be my seat. So I am a little troubled by the limited seating being serious, because I really like the idea of this cantina, and I think it'll be a really cool spot to chill. But on top of that, I think the biggest news for me was, besides the cantina and besides Smuggler's Run, if you've seen the Banshees in Pandora, and I love my Banshee, by the way, but if you see the Banshees, you control them, they talk, you adopt one. I knew there was something coming for Star Wars. And I had a feeling this is what it was going to be, but I was not 100% sure. And now I'm 100% sure. They're going to give us mini droids we can adopt. And they took it even a step further by saying you can train these droids one way or another by giving an example of, if you have a scared-natured droid that's got a fear about it, then when a stormtrooper walks by in the park, it will alert you to that stormtrooper's presence. Now, I don't know how they're going to pull this off. I'm sure it's got something to do with chips and whatnot that interact between the armor and your droids and all of that, but no matter how they pull it off, this is awesome. I can't wait to adopt a little droid. And for those that are saying, oh, little droid, Look, if your pockets are deep enough, they did also mention that there is a possibility of a full-size R2-like astromech unit that you can purchase. Now, I don't know how deep your pockets are going to have to be for this. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to be deep depending on what this thing actually does. But this is exciting. Like, I like the idea of having my own droid, even if it's my own little droid that follows me around. And hell, even if I have to hold it on my shoulder like my Pandora bot, I won't mind that just because it also interacts with the park. I am down for as many things that interact with this park as I can get. I know years ago they mentioned a headset that might have AR eventually in this park where you'll see things as you walk around with the headset. Totally down. Lightsaber that turns on via the headset. Blasters that work via a headset. Totally down. Blasters that work just by pointing them. Totally down. The more you can give me to bring me into this world, the more you've got my money. So, little droid, yes, you've got my money already. I stood in a 3-hour line for a Banshee. I'll stand in a 6-hour line for a droid. And that's literally a line just to get into the store and make a purchase. But you know what? Worth every second. I loved that Banshee. I still love that Banshee. But I have a feeling he will quickly get replaced by a droid. And I'm sorry if you heard me over there, Banshee. You're in the same room as me. And if I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry. But a droid. A droid. So, hands down, most exciting thing of everything that happened this week was all this stuff from Star Wars News. They did even paint out the entrance. They said, much like when you go into the land itself, right? If you haven't been to Pandora, I'll say it like this. If you haven't been to Pandora, there's a big bridge. And as you go on the bridge, it kind of, Animal Kingdom dissolves around you. And all of a sudden you're on the planet of Pandora. And that's kind of what they're doing with Star Wars entrances, is from what they said, you'll go from dark to light. And as you walk through the tunnel, everything will go dark, and as you open up, bam, you're transported to another world. And I think that's great. I'm loving these worlds they're building, and I can't wait to see what else they could do. I know there's limited space in California for more, but there's room in Disney World, and there's room in some of the other parks around the world to really, really keep fleshing out these extra full lands, because some of these things they purchased are just that immersive that they can have their whole land, and Star Wars is one of them. But that's really all that happened big in actual Disney Park news, except for Kevin from Up is coming to Disney World. That's the bird from the movie that everyone loves to cry to. And I know I'm excited. I've always wanted to meet this bird. I love the puppeteer / person in it. I love the way it works, and I can't wait to get some pictures with it. Also, it is Minnie and Mickey. They're having a giant celebration here at Magic Kingdom right now, and they've got new costumes. The Incredibles are coming back this year. All kinds of new things. There's new foods, new everything. Disney World's got a really big year this year, and as they give us details on this stuff more and more, I'll really get into it, especially when I can get out there myself, get y'all some pictures. I'll put up some pictures of stuff that I see that's new, because I know when the Incredibles came last year, they did this big Incredible Summer thing, and they put up these big displays, and they were so fun to take pictures with. So I can't wait to show y'all some of this new stuff as it comes. I'll try some of the food. Every now and then I'll put some food up here as I can afford it, but that's really all for the show today. We touched all 4 segments, and I will be back next week. I will be back at the same day. Don't know about the same time because I don't know how my time's going to start fluctuating, but I will be back next week with as much more as I can give you. Until then, if you want to keep up with the day-to-day, check the links below. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. And Facebook and Twitter will help you get to the first link. There is the website. I make sure to share that stuff immediately on our Facebook and Twitter sites. That way you know when it pops up, and you can go to the site and you can read my thoughts on all this stuff directly as it happens. I talk about trailers on there. You'll see my trailer reviews, my trailer responses, all that stuff. So feel free to go on there, check the links, follow us, be part of the conversation. I really can't wait to hear from y'all. There's also going to be a link to Instagram down there. Got amazing park pictures I put up on Instagram. Try to take as many as possible when I'm there, and I haven't really touched them recently this year, actually at all, I think, this year since the turn of the year. So I'm going to have to start going through, and I'm going to dump some more pictures on there real soon. So Follow us on Instagram. You'll get some really beautiful pictures of all the parks in Walt Disney World Resort. And I told y'all I was going to put an email link down in here. You can email us at snipes-n-snarfblatts@gmail.com. Make sure in the subject line to put a good description of your subject, and make sure to keep it under like a small paragraph, because if I use these and I use your question or I use something like that, I'm going to put them up on the screen, and I got to have room to actually fit them on the screen. So keep it limited to about a paragraph. If you've got questions, if you've got whatever, feel free to shoot them to me. I will do my best to answer your questions. I will love to conversate with you back and forth. And like I said, if I get an overwhelming amount of emails one way or another against something I said, I will address that too, all in the last segment of the show that I'm going to save time for later, because I don't have any questions obviously right now. This is the first time I put the site up. But feel free to write that email address. Once again, it's snipes-n-snarfblatts@gmail.com. And we will definitely get back to you as soon as we can. And until then, until next time, Excelsior!